Fruits are the second healthiest foods on the planet after vegetables.
Imagine if there were a drug that can decrease your risk of dying by 1/3.
The best thing that I can do is to take a fruit and showcase it with as little meddling as possible.
You need to realize the important difference between sugar in its natural form, the way nature intended, versus these so-called industrial sugars.
We have to take control. Even if you are just able to do it once or twice or 3 times a week, that makes a huge impact on your health.
For millions of years, humans have been developing an important symbiotic relationship with fruit. Trees and plants depend on us to disperse seeds from their fruits across the countryside. And we have come to depend on those fruits for a delicious and vital source of nutrition. But new research is revealing that our relationship with fruit may run much deeper than we ever imagined.
According to the Global Burden of Disease Study, the largest study of human risk factors to date, funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the #1 dietary risk factor for death and disease worldwide is not eating enough fruit.
Fruits are the second healthiest foods on the planet after vegetables. They're sweet, they're delicious, they're full of water, they are full of fiber, very high in phytonutrients and antioxidants, and those are basically cancer-fighting, health-promoting foods.
Humans are naturally drawn to fruit, especially ripe, sweet fruit, because we're primates, animals that evolved eating fruit in the trees. Monkeys and apes still spend much of their days searching for fruit and have been selected to prefer the ripe, sweet kind because it contains more sugar for energy and water, which can be hard to find high in the trees. That highly developed palate for sweets and the power they provide remains with us to this day.
We need fructose. We need naturally occurring fructose from fruit in our diet. Fructose is a component of complex carbohydrates. Our bodies run on that fuel. We need to eat that every day. That's the energy that we use to fuel our movements, to fuel our bodies to function. And so we have to get those complex carbs. That's the engine on which we run.
Unfortunately, the vast majority of fructose we consume today doesn't come from fruit. Food companies realized the powerful draw of sugar decades ago and have been adding large quantities of it to processed foods ever since. From breads and sauces to soft drinks, sugar has become a hidden core ingredient of most modern staples. And that refined sugar is missing several critical components that are essential to our health.
When we eat something like white table sugar, we're basically eating something that has been processed. It started out as a sugarcane salt, and it's been processed into white table sugar crystals. In that process, the fiber is removed and most of the nutrients are removed. And so you're basically eating empty calories. And that's the problem with sugar. So it's empty calories, it's very addictive, it's the #1 added ingredient to all processed and packaged foods. Americans eat about 30 tablespoons of sugar a day.
You need to realize the important difference between sugar in its natural form, the way our nature intended, versus these so-called industrial sugars. That sucrose, table sugar, and high fructose corn syrup have a very different effect on the body. So the reason we're concerned about sugar intake in general, this excess added sugar intake, is because pretty much liver health, high blood pressure and high triglycerides, high fat in the blood from too much sugar intake. Well, fruit intake is associated with actually the reverse. The more fruit people eat, they actually have better liver health, they have better blood pressure, lower triglycerides. Diabetics on high fruit diets have better blood sugar control than diabetics with restricted fruit intake.
The consumption of added sugar has increased rapidly since the dawn of the industrial age, leading to an epidemic of obesity, cancer, and other serious illnesses. One recent study found that people who consumed roughly 20% of calories from added sugar had nearly 40% greater risk of dying from cardiovascular disease than those who consumed less than 8%. These stunning findings are leading many health experts to recommend major reductions in the amount of added sugar we consume from processed foods.
Ideally, World Health Organization is pushing for 5% added sugars a day. American Heart Association is at 10%. For some people, that wouldn't even allow a single can of soda a day. That's how concerned they are about added sugar intake, but they're not talking about fruit. In fact, they've done studies where they've given people dozens of servings of fruit a day, and we actually see just beneficial effects on their metabolism. So absolutely, we should stuff our face with as many fruits and vegetables as possible, but indeed eliminate or reduce on a day-to-day basis our consumption of added industrial sugars.
A 7-year study of more than 500,000 Chinese adults found that those who ate fruit regularly cut their risk of dying from cardiovascular disease by roughly 1/3. Even basic fruits, like oranges, provide critical phytochemicals, antioxidants, and fiber that boost our immune system and lower our blood pressure and glucose levels. But nutritionists are quick to point out that how you consume those fruits matters.
What I recommend is that people eat fruit as a whole food. That's the best way to eat it. So a whole apple instead of apple juice, a whole orange instead of orange juice. When you eat the whole fruit, you're getting the fiber. And so what the fiber does is help to make the fructose, the natural fruit sugar that's in the fruit, to enter your bloodstream slowly. And so it doesn't spike your blood sugar level. If you're just having fruit juice, you're not getting any fiber, it's gonna spike your blood sugar, and then you're gonna crash. It's actually very dangerous, especially for people who experience diabetes.
In recent years, scientists have uncovered many surprising health benefits in fruits, from fighting cancer to improving memory. And while food and nutrition companies often tout the latest benefits found in relatively rare fruits, like barberries and goji berries, some of the most remarkable benefits have been found in some of the most ordinary fruits, including the ubiquitous apple.
I think we hear a lot about, exotic superfruits, when it turns out that apples, one of the most common fruits, are one of the most powerful fruits in terms of their health benefits. We've known for a while now there are these in vitro petri dish studies showing that the apple peels, most of the nutrition is actually in the peel, so we shouldn't peel our apples, can suppress cancer cell growth, human cancer cell growth. And most excitingly, a new study out of Australia followed about 1,500 women for a period of 15 years. These are older women, older than age 70, and those women that ate an apple a day or more had 35% lower risk of dying, period. Dying prematurely within that 15-year period compared to those that didn't eat apples at all, essentially. Imagine if there were a drug that could decrease your risk of dying by 1/3. That's extraordinary, and I think that's the kind of data that I think can inspire people to, go over to the produce aisle and see what new exciting varieties of apples might be in that week.
Chef Kate Jacoby builds on the natural sweetness of fruits like apples to create healthy yet indulgent desserts that can satisfy even the sweetest tooth. She and her husband, Chef Rich Landau, scour the globe for exotic flavors and techniques to try out in their vegan restaurant, Veg. For Jacoby, the biggest challenge and greatest reward is crafting the ultimate plant-based treat that indulges your senses as much as mainstream desserts.
And then, you can go ahead and just kind of like pop it open.
I love the idea of incorporating, fruits and vegetables, both really, into desserts and really kind of focusing on them and not just making them into a pie filling that's like covered with sugar, or like blending them into something and losing their texture. The best thing that I can do is to take a fruit at the peak of its ripe season, and showcase it with as little meddling as possible. Each year, we kind of revisit certain seasonal fruits because here in Philadelphia, we go through obviously a pretty predictable cycle. So when it comes to the time of year where everybody's looking for something like apple, we try to reinvent it sometimes. This year, we wanted to do something a little bit different, like a mini apple pie. We call it an apple blossom, so it does have a pastry crust, but then we take slices of apple and sort of layer them in almost to the point where they look like a rose. And so when we were working on this, it smelled delicious, like all of the beautiful baking spices with a little cinnamon and like a little touch of clove and a dash of allspice were all coming through so nicely. But again, about texture, we wanted just a little something extra in there. So we turned to walnuts to create that little mid texture, because you have like the juicy, soft baked apples, and then you have that crispy kind of like just a little bit, tender crust. We wanted something in between, so we made a walnut frangipane to layer underneath. We've pulsed down the walnuts and created almost like a pastry cream to layer underneath. And in this application, the walnuts are so rich and luscious that they add a really nice like third texture. Around the dish, we have a pomegranate cider using apple cider and pomegranate juice that we've reduced down with a little bit of apple cider vinegar. So we're trying to, again, create a really nice balanced dish that's going to speak to the season and eat in a way that, you're basically getting like delicious apple pie, but you're also having the great texture between the creaminess from the walnut frangipane and then like the crunch of the sprinkled walnuts. We're going for like layers of flavor and layers of texture.
While the common apple remains one of the world's most popular fruits, research has shown that berries, like pomegranates, strawberries, and blueberries, may turn out to be the healthiest. Recent studies indicate they may be a hidden weapon in the battle against Alzheimer's disease. They've also been shown to be highly effective in combating cancer, heart disease, and even inflammation, a major source of many chronic diseases.
Berries are the healthiest fruits. Harvard researchers found that women who ate a single serving of blueberries a week or 2 servings of strawberries had slower rates of cognitive decline, slower rates of brain aging by as much as 2.5 years compared to those women that didn't eat berries. American Cancer Society study following 100,000 men and women found that those that ate berries had significantly lower risk of dying from cardiovascular disease.
I just recommend that people eat berries every single day. They are that healthy for you. They're the dark leafy greens of fruit. I'm talking about blueberries, blackberries. Those are the healthiest berries of them all. The darker the berry, the healthier the fruit.
Darker berries have more antioxidants, just like most darker fruits and vegetables. That means they can remove even more oxidizing agents from our bodies that cause significant damage to our cells over time. But experts say the most important factor in selecting the healthiest berries is to maintain variety and not forget about the many larger and sometimes less sweet types that scientists also classify in the berry family.
In addition to berries, in addition to bananas, in addition to apples, you also want to have tomatoes, you want to have cucumbers, you want to have avocados. Avocados are loaded with healthy fats. I recommend that people eat at least 1 avocado every day. So again, you want to have color. That's how you know that you're getting all of the nutrients that you need, the antioxidants, the phytonutrients. So you want to focus on adding the rainbow to your cart, just like you would with vegetables.
A growing body of research clearly indicates that eating a diverse, plant-based diet full of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes is one of the biggest steps that we can take toward improving our health. It may seem like an uphill battle because we're bombarded by many tempting and powerful choices that can lead us astray. But experts agree, it gets easier over time, and it's the small, everyday decisions that could ultimately end up saving our lives.
We have to take control. And I know that there are food deserts out there. I know that people don't always have access to fresh, healthy food. So you do what you can. You grow your own food. You shop at farmers markets. You join a community-supported agriculture, CSA. Knowing that whole grains are healthier, knowing that fruit is healthy, knowing that vegetables are healthy, knowing that beans, nuts, and seeds are healthy. You have to start somewhere, and every little bit helps. Even if you are just able to do it once or twice or 3 times a week, that makes a huge impact on your health.
We've been kind of swamped with this hyper salty, hyper sweet, hyper fatty palate because that's the processed food industry's way to kind of get us to use cheap ingredients to eat their garbage, basically. They add more salt, sugar, fat, just to kind of hijack our natural biological drives. But when we start going back to whole natural foods, at first, it's a transition in our taste. But give it a few weeks, start eating healthy, and all of a sudden, whole natural food actually tastes delicious. And so then you get the best of both worlds. It tastes great and you get to live longer. That's what plant-based eating is all about.